Now go into the hazmat. Hazmat. How did we get the hazmat? Well, as trucking companies start going down the highways and Eisenhower built all the interstates, next thing you know, we got every type of chemical you can imagine. So we had some major incidents on our highways in our cities that finally the regulations had to be there. That's how we went from a chauffeur's license to a CDL. And that's when we went to the placards for the United Nations numbers, UN numbers, and the ERG books, their emergency response guides. And that's kind of your Bible if you're on hazmat. That's how we know how to handle the spills and who to contact. When we're done with this, we'll have a little bit better understanding as to why we placard, what the chain of command is if we have an incident, and what we can and can't haul together. Just making sure that we have good habits with our paperwork also. Okay, so what is a hazardous material, chemical, or product? It can be anything that unreasonable risk to health, safety, property when it's transported. So hazardous substances, the waste, marine pollutants, elevated temperature materials. Some things aren't hazardous unless they get wet. Some things aren't hazardous unless they get cold. Some things aren't hazardous unless they get warm. Hefty fines and jail time if we're not following the regulations. What our job, if we're hauling hazmat, is we have to make sure that we know how to contain the materials as an incident. We got to communicate the risk to the public. That's what the placards are for. And ensure safe drivers and equipment, and that they're well trained. Shippers are responsible. Shippers have responsibility. Carriers have responsibility, and the drivers have responsibility. The drivers are the checks and balances of all of that, because you have to understand the paperwork. You have to understand what you can and can't haul together. What you have to placard. There's weight rules. There's a lot to know about it. And that's why we train on it. We got different divisions of hazardous material class. So this here is a division chart. This here shows our classifications in row 1, divisions in row 2, and the name of the class division and an example. So we got a class 3. The division is blank there because it's petroleum, but it's gasoline. And then it shows the name of the division, and get over there and it shows an example. Okay, same thing with your explosives. Your explosive. If you go over to class 1, usually aren't hauled together, they're hauled separate, and there's only a certain amount of weight that you're allowed to haul with those. And you better never get caught going through a city with those. You have to, you see that all hazardous materials must take the bypass. Well, there's reasons for that. Shipping papers. This is stuff right here for Carter Waters that we have to make sure that we have, and we got to have a emergency response. So there's the telephone numbers that we have on that. We keep those in the pouch on the driver's door, in a clear view within reach of the driver's seat when they're out of the vehicle. Make sure that the labels printed directly on the package are attached to a tag or label. The placards are at least 10 3/4 inch squares. And you guys recycle those, right? You have, are those the metal ones or
metal ones?
Yeah. Okay.
Flip kind of stuff.
Yeah. Very good. And then the ID number on the placard, the orange panel. So there's our UN numbers. That's how we know kind of what we're going for in the ERGs. And that's how we're communicating to first responders, DOT, and how you know to look up in your ERGs as to what we're dealing with. And these are the list of the shippers and carriers and drivers use. We've got the materials table, the reportable quantities, and it's different for whatever type of chemical that you're hauling. That's why we use the ERGs. It tells you. And then the list of marine pollutants. Obviously, there's some chemicals that vessels, your big ships, aren't allowed to haul. They're not allowed to be anywhere in the marine waters at all. There's some chemicals that aren't allowed to even be transported anywhere. They have to be changed into a different product so that they're containable. I wish we had the books here. We could get into this a little bit with the ERGs, but this talks about the 8 columns of information. The hazmat, which is forbidden in transportation. It gives the proper shipping names, the labels, the placards, the mode of transportation. The DOT and EPA needs to be informed about spills. Any spill. Reportable quantities, a lot of that has to do with if we need to come into the soil, but any spill needs to be reported to the DOT and the EPA, no matter what it is if it come off your truck. And if they show up like, yeah, that's no problem, just put it back in the bucket or just scoop it up, put it in a dump truck and haul it away, whatever that happens. There's other times that there's a lot more to it. They have to dig that soil up, they have to monitor wherever the dump was at, and then they have to bring in fresh soil. And then you got to pay to get rid of that product also. Big money in that. That last one's a big one down there. Must display poison or gas pipe or different hail or hazard. Okay. This here gets into a little bit of marine pollutants. We don't have to worry about that at the moment. On the shipping papers, must have multiple pages listed, so we got proper shipping name, no abbreviations, because abbreviations that causes us big problems. You may abbreviate differently than somebody else. Shipper certification must be signed, and then how to indicate it's a hazmat material. So descriptions first, it's highlighted with an X or RQ in the hazmat material column. If it's a hazmat material waste, it must have the waste as the proper shipping name. You guys don't haul that. There's an example of some shipping papers for hazmat. And you can see right there, reportable quantity, what the name of it is, what the hazard class is. There's your United Nations number, ID number, and then, of course, the packing group.